Developing a consistent lexicon for storytelling in video games has been a vexing proposition for those involved in the industry over the past several decades. Literature and cinema have their own distinct rules and ways of communicating themes and ideas to their audiences, and video games should be no different than either of those mediums. Lessons learned are quickly forgotten or ignored as fans endure poorly structured narratives in hopes of finding the gems among the stones in the gaming landscape. Dear Esther is among gaming's avant-garde, foregoing any kind of actual gameplay in a demonstration of the potential power of interactive storytelling. There are no enemies, no puzzles, not so much as a single item to pick up or collect. It would be natural to wonder, why even make Dear Esther interactive at all? Couldn't its yarn just be put onto pages or film? Opening in front of a lighthouse with your character delivering a soliloquy, after which you are left to explore your surroundings. There are no objective markers, no text prompts, no intrusive and hideous HUD to obscure your view of the world. Exploring the nooks and crannies of the surrounding area occasionally prompts random statements from your character. These are usually excerpts from letters to the title character, Esther. In these letters, a few of the island's former inhabitants are referenced repeatedly. There are also several themes that emerge from these excerpts, and astute players will notice those themes reflected in the environment. A glowing red beacon on top of a radio tower is almost always present, and, like a moth to a flame, it compels you to seek it out. Paths split and merge around the island, and it's easy for you to find your way forward. This setup wouldn't be engrossing for very long if it wasn't for the visuals. Dear Esther benefits from an excellent graphical presentation and art direction. Textures are rich, dust picks up, leaves blow around, the foliage is dense, and landmarks dot an otherwise open landscape. Warm candle glow contrasts with cool night skies, and somehow, Dear Esther manages to make caves, often the most drab environments found in games, rather breathtaking. Rock walls are scrawled on with luminescent goo, and the rocks form awesome structures with stalactites and stalagmites jutting from the bedrock, forming nefarious teeth. Rivers flow through the cave's interior, terminating in grand waterfalls. It is perhaps here that the game's setting can be most clearly seen as a metaphor. To deride Dear Esther for its lack of actual gameplay is to remain oblivious to its excellent adaptation of literary devices to tell a simple, interactive story. It's a story that places you not just in the shoes of its protagonist, but in its mind and soul as well. It's an introspective tale which is remarkably rare for a video game. To discuss any more of the plot itself would undermine the experience and mystery. Allegory, allusions, and metaphor are all present. Dear Esther explores new territory for narrative in an interactive media. With its lack of a defined structure and a devilish desire not to be too explicit with its plot points, Dear Esther's yarn will displease some, and accusations of pretension will likely ensue. There have been many games in the past with exquisite narratives, and there have been games that have had extraordinary gameplay and mechanics. The biggest challenge is getting these two aspects of a game to work together harmoniously. To have game mechanics that fit to narrative themes, mechanics and gameplay elements that reflect the subtext of the narrative itself. In many games, story and gameplay exist in almost separate bubbles. Actual narrative often bookends levels and takes a back seat while the player controls their character. It's an antiquated formula and only a handful of games seem to have shaken. Given Dear Esther's unique narrative presentation, I must confess to being curious as to see how they might have tackled the issue, and it was disappointing to me that I didn't get to see the Chinese Room's solution to the issue. The way the Chinese Room engages the player without traditional mechanics is through simple exploration. By making discoveries in the world, you are treated to a bit of exposition. Symbols, diagrams, and writing can be found in the world to reflect elements of the exposition. A book or film can never deliver the level of immersion that Dear Esther offers. The experience only works because the player can choose to see or not to see things in the environment. The ability for the player to set the pace of the story and be given an opportunity to discover the details makes Dear Esther work. Dear Esther has had a remarkable journey from a Half-Life 2 mod to an independent release. It's an exercise in adapting literary conventions to an interactive experience, and it's an experience worth taking part in. The excellent soundtrack and visuals hold your attention while the plot takes shape. The conclusion will stick with you long after the hour and a half it takes to see it through, and it's likely that you'll revisit Dear Esther to soak in its finer points. While not for everyone, this is an important game, and it's my greatest hope that developers take note of what Dear Esther has managed to accomplish.